What if the thing that's holding you back from being seen in your business isn't your strategy, it's not your content plan, or it's not even your offer? It's the fact that you're waiting until you feel ready to use your voice. The reality is that moment of ready might never come, because the reality is when we're in business, we're never really ready for anything. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Sophie Biggerstaff. I spent 12 years as a fashion buyer for brands like Ralph Lauren and Burberry, and I quit in 2020 to build an online business from scratch using my existing skills and experiences. Since then, I've made multiple six figures online, and now I help aspiring entrepreneurs do the same. Today on the podcast, we're getting into something I know so many of you feel, that pull to share your message more boldly, to show up on stages, on podcasts, and in rooms that feel a little bit too big for where you think you are right now, because we're going to be talking about public speaking as a visibility tool and why using your voice isn't just a nice to have in business. It's one of the most powerful things you can do for your business to get yourself seen by the right people. Today, I'm talking to Alya Annabi, an TEDx speaker, entrepreneur, and self-described activator who has made it her mission to push women into action before they feel ready. She's a keynote speaker, a mentor, and a hype woman extraordinaire who has spoken at events alongside organizations like WWF Singapore, La French Tech, and the Climate Action Young Leaders Summit. She's also the founder of Positive Push, a community and mentorship space built to help ambitious women turn self-doubt into action. Her TEDx talk was called How Hanging My Laundry Changed My Life. And I had a big question to start this podcast about what does that actually mean? So if you're looking for more speaking opportunities, you're looking to try and step into your power and get really truly seen in your business, this is an episode you're not going to want to miss. Speaking of getting yourself to take action, I am here to help you take action to actually start your online business. Now, the one way that I can help you do that is by joining my Freedom Business Bootcamp. The Freedom Business Bootcamp has been specifically designed for those of you who have been sitting on an idea for an online business for more than 6 months. Now, I am going to guide you through actually stepping out of any fears that you've got that have been holding you back and start taking action within 72 hours of actually starting the boot camp so that you can start building your online business. Ultimately, you always have to take the first action, but sometimes you might need a little nudge to get there. And I am going to give you that nudge. The link to join is in the show notes, and you can join the Freedom Business Bootcamp to start taking action on building your online business today. Now let's get into the episode.
Hey Alya, welcome to the Freedom Method podcast. How you doing?
I'm good, and you?
I'm really good, thank you. I want to start somewhere because this episode is all about public speaking and using your voice. And I know that you did a TEDx talk called How Hanging My Laundry Changed My Life. So I would love the summary. What does that mean? And how did hanging your laundry change your life?
Thank you for this question. So doing the TEDx talk has been on my vision board since 2023, when I connected with my higher self during a hypnotherapy session, actually. And since then, I had the logo on my vision board. I've always wanted to do one. And basically, I decided to walk the talk and do what I preach, which is take action on what you want, literally, and just stop waiting for things to come to you as well. So I started adding TEDx speakers. I started also just basically listening to their advice about how to land one and just how they did it as well. And eventually I signed up to a webinar literally called How to Land a TEDx talk. And the lady who animated that webinar said, what you can do is go on the TED website and just look for events that are near your location and apply for them, because each event is run independently, which means that there's a different theme per event. So try to look for something that is like, linked to what you want to share about, and just apply for it. You never know, right? So that's what I did. I went on the website, found a talk in Singapore around the theme Muse, which was all about like inspiration, and it was for youth. So that's when I pitched 3 ideas actually, and the one that was picked was this one. So I had a bunch of interviews with the team, and then eventually they said yes, and I had like 2 months to prepare. But that was an idea that was close to my heart, because it was about how, like when you reconnect to your inner voice and also to nature as humans, because we are nature. Well, you can genuinely like reconnect to your inner world and who you are as a person, because I had spent so much time running from that and running from my own truth, which was at the time that I wanted to run my own business and, work in sustainability as well. And yeah, being in nature really helped me for that, like to confirm it. But hanging my laundry was the moment that it was quiet enough for me to really pay attention to that inner voice that said to me at that time, you can quit. And
Uh,
it was those three words that were like so loud, like I couldn't ignore them anymore. And the rest of the story is in the talk. So maybe you can put the link if you want.
yeah, I love that. Definitely. That's so cool. And was that your first speaking opportunity, or had you done anything before that?
No, I've done quite a few before. I actually know that speaking on stages and just speaking in general, even what we're doing now, is definitely a happy place for me. So I've been doing that. Like actually, one of the first speaking opportunities I had was one that I had created end of 2019, which was a webinar around how to live sustainably in Singapore. And I remember having four people, one of them including my husband. But hey, like your brain, when you have just three people, it's already an audience for your brain. So
100%.
that from there, it kind of like gave me the confidence, and I started like doing those talks to my colleagues as well. And then I joined forces with a friend to like still on the sustainability side, like to run workshops and more talks. And then of course went more virtual because of COVID. And yeah, my kind of speaking career started from there, I want to say. And initially, what I had almost forgotten also about was that I was doing a lot of theater when I was younger. So it's something that has always been in me, which is, being a bit of a center of attention on stage, having people to listen to me and just, entertain them in a way. So yeah, that's how that came to light.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that that was something that you thrived as a kid, because when I teach about like starting a business based around like your own freedom goals and looking at like what you should start based on what those freedom lifestyle goals are, I always ask whoever I'm teaching to think about like what were you really good at, or what did you love doing as a kid, because 90% of the time there's some kind of crossover between what you were really great at, what you thrived in as a child, and what you want to do as an adult. And I think we forget about those skills, or we forget about those hobbies and passions that we had as a child sometimes, because we're so wrapped up in our adult lives. And reconnecting with those, I think, is really special and really powerful. And I've been on my own journey more recently to try and reconnect with a lot of things that I used to love as a kid. I loved dancing as a kid. And I think something that blocks us from doing some of these things in adult life is that, I don't know, for example, for me as a kid, I loved singing and dancing. And I remember very specifically when I was in secondary school. So when I was in primary school, I was a performer, same as you. Like I loved theatre. I like would put on like shows in front of the whole school, the whole classroom. And then when I got to secondary school, people were better than me, right? So I very quickly realized, oh, I'm not a great singer, I'm not the best dancer. And somewhere inside of me, like I pushed that down, and I never did it then in my adult life because I resisted, because I thought I wasn't good at it. But now I'm having this massive call to go back to dancing, back to singing, not because I'm good at it, but because I feel like it's something that I'm supposed to have in my life to bring me joy, bring me pleasure. And that was something that I loved doing as a child. And I'm having to work through these things in my head that are telling me, you're not good enough to do this, you're not good enough to do this. Because I think we get so conditioned to out of our hobbies and passions. So I love that you've been able to go full circle and bring that into the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that voice that says, you're not good enough or you're not good at this. I think, we generally, everyone has this voice inside. It's like your own inner critic that is here to keep you safe, keep you in your comfort zone, doesn't really want you to try new things. But I genuinely believe that if you keep feeding that other voice that wants you, to do those things that are important to you, then, like listen to that one instead. Like when that voice told me, oh, you know so much about sustainability, why not share to the world? Then I never asked myself like, what if no one showed up, what if what if I just took action on that. Like, okay, I'm gonna do my webinar, and I told people about it, and I got excited. And then it just brings back all this, it puts you into, I don't know, just a happy, cool vibe where you just genuinely happy that you do these things that you want to do, you know? And even if it feels a bit scary, of course, and a bit uncomfortable, like this comes for everyone, but I always remind myself that there's a first one to literally everything. Like you had your first podcast episode ever. You have, you know what I mean? Like today we look at you and it's like flawless, the way you ask questions and everything. But I'm sure that maybe before recording your very first episode, you were like, oh my God, like what if this and this and this? But then eventually went well and you kept on going, right? So
Yeah.
it's like stop. It's really important to stop looking at and compare ourselves to, you know, like I'm sure you've heard this saying, you know, chapter 20 of someone when you're at chapter 2 for yourself. So you can
Definitely.
only compare yourself to your past self. That's all.
Exactly. I fully agree. And I think you mentioned something about when you were talking about the masterclass that you got really excited, even if it was just 4 people showing up and one of them was your partner. That's a big deal. Like that's still 4 humans that showed interest in what you were doing. And I think because of social media, because of the online space, we are so conditioned to think that that's not successful, right? Like that's not what so many other people are achieving, like you say, 20 steps ahead of us. And that's just the starting point. And I think if we can look at like these experiences that we go through in business, and business is a constant trial and error process, a constant lesson essentially. If we can look at that first masterclass or the first podcast that we're recording and say, okay, well, I took the action, I stepped outside my comfort zone to do the thing, and this is the result, rather than me being beat up and say, oh my God, it's a failure because only 4 people came, look at like, what did you get from that? Did that bring you joy? Did you enjoy doing this? And furthermore, what did that teach you to do next time? Like, how can you look at what the lessons were in that to help you improve and help you grow and structure that? But you took the first step. And I think that's what, from what I understand about the work that you do, it's all about like taking the action and putting yourself in the positions to be seen and put yourself out there. And until you take the action, you'll never be successful if you stay in the stuck, right? So you have to take the action. And you speak a lot, obviously, and work with women that want to do public speaking. Tell me a little bit about like some of the beliefs and things that you've seen for yourself and with people that you've worked with that hold people back from going after what it is that they actually want.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it's interesting that you say that because I don't necessarily specialize in public speaking for women. It's more like helping them take action on what they want. That's all. Like it can be different things, but it's different for different people, of course. But I want to say one of the main things is keep repeating some old stories until we think and believe they are the truth. And you know, some people say it's limiting beliefs. It can, you know, some people say use other words. But at the end of the day, it's like even just recently, I had this session with a woman who had a difficult experience on camera because she got filmed a bit by surprise. Like she was not really prepared for it, and they interviewed her with cameras, and she didn't expect that. So for her, that experience was not like the best. It still went well. She did her best that she could, but then she kept repeating to herself, I'm not great on camera. I'm not great on camera. Like, you know, but I still need to at some point be on camera because I'm an entrepreneur and I want to show to people a bit more of my face and all this. So we had a whole session, and then actually I helped her just like put the light on what was the lesson from that experience, but not that let that experience define actually the progress she can make from that starting point, because that was her first time and you can only progress from there. And a lot of people kind of let that one experience where they were not great or they were a bit bad at it define like their whole trajectory. Like if you look at top, you know, even athletes or people on stage or people that are like really excellent at what they do, obviously there was a moment in their life, especially at the beginning of it, where they were not good. Like they you know, they were not good, they failed, they missed but they kept on going and they kept on learning. Like imagine if you're a baby and you're learning how to walk and then you fall, obviously, because it's part of the process, but then you're like, oh, whatever, I'm not gonna like try again, and you just don't learn how to walk. Is that it? Like, of course not. Like we walk, it means that we went through that process and we were babies, but we forgot about it, right? So it's like, how can you approach in that same mindset as when you're, a child and you're young and you're learning something new, to be like, it's okay to suck at it. It's okay to be a bit bad and to fail. And, that you're not that proud because actually you thought you would do better and everything, but you know that you can only progress from that state. So that's how, like, essentially with them, the way I work is like I push them into just taking that first step, because usually that creates momentum for yourself, but not let like an old story define also the what will happen next. And then second, never let your inner critic be the truth, be the voice of truth. It's not the truth. It's literally just one voice inside of you that acts like a misguided protector in a way. But we think of it as the voice of truth, as definite, it's like, oh, no, it's not. But no, why? Like, why are you saying that? And just sometimes I challenge them on that, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, I've never thought about it this way. So yeah, I think it's really important to just keep believing in yourself at the end of the day, but just also keep that honesty with yourself, because sometimes there's things that we do, and it happened to me many times that I think, like podcasting, right? I tried having my own podcast, but there was like a few things that really annoyed me in the process, and I didn't have someone to edit for me. And I think I was not like that connected anymore to like why I was doing that podcast and all this. So I was also honest with myself that, okay, maybe it's time to quit and just like let it be, let it rest. And maybe one day I'll start podcasting again on another topic, and that's also fine. But yeah, it's also like bringing part of fun in the process. Like if something makes you genuinely happy and brings you energy, like keep going for it, keep like fighting for it, keep taking action on it. If it drains you, then please stop. Like, don't keep at it just for the sake of it. Like, that's also not great. So it's not any action as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of people struggle with that part, because especially in entrepreneurship, because again, we're fed this narrative online that you have to be posted on Instagram, you have to be posted on TikTok, you have to have a YouTube, you have to have Substack, LinkedIn, all of the things. And that isn't, those social media strategies or marketing strategies are not in alignment with every single person, like, or everyone's business. You have to think of like what is going to energize you, and what you do. The podcast that you just mentioned is a perfect example of that. If you weren't getting any energy from that, and it was just sucking all your energy, that is taking away energy from you to show up on the platforms, like on the stages, on LinkedIn, which I know you're very active on, like, because you're feeling depleted because you're trying to put all of your energy and attention into the podcast, and then that's taken from the channels that are actually working for you and that you do enjoy showing up on and that feel more organic for you to be on. But because we've been fed this narrative of we should be everywhere all the time, so many people don't give themselves permission to step back. And I was really guilty of that. I spent so many years trying to nail Instagram, and I hate Instagram. I don't even look at Instagram. Like, I got no idea what's going on Instagram. So how on earth am I meant to create content for Instagram? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't only until I lent into like my skills and the things that did give me energy, which is podcasting, because I love having conversations. It is writing, so I really enjoy posting for LinkedIn. The things that I'm naturally good at and I can stay consistent at, because essentially I literally had another conversation yesterday about this, and like, consistency compounds, and we can only really stay consistent unless you are super disciplined, which I am not. You can stay consistent at the things that you are energized by. If something's sucking your energy, the chances are you're going to record a couple of podcast episodes, get frustrated with it, and then be like, oh, I can't do it anymore. And then you quit a lot easier, right? And that's not a bad thing to quit if it's sucking your energy. But it also, you have to be very honest with yourself, because there will be some people that will continue keep butting their heads against the wall and think, oh my God, why can't I get this right? And it's, well, because it's not giving you anything back.
Absolutely. And there's one thing that you said is, you said being really good at, naturally being good at it. And this is different from a skill. When you're naturally gifted and naturally good at something, it's a strength. And we're all born with strengths, but we choose which one to activate during our lives, right? And skill is something that you learn. You learn the skill of, using Excel or whatever, math or AI, or these are like, of course, it's part of our own learning journeys, but being naturally good at something. So if you're naturally good at writing, then putting energy into that will only create like a virtual cycle. I love speaking so much as well. that now, for example, my strategy for Instagram is to be more present on camera there, because it's something that, I want to experience. I want to give myself a shot to, like, speak to people and use my voice. So of course I'm not going to do the polished carousels and everything, because this is not really for me. And LinkedIn also, I love, like you, because of the writing. So what I mean by that is, to your point, is our own presence online, or when it comes to social media, it needs to make sense. And we need to, whatever we do, whether it's like creating a business, being showing up online, anything, we need to be connected to why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Just why, like, generally, why are you showing up on LinkedIn? Why? And then when you're clear on your why, then of course on the days where you don't want to show up, you're a bit tired, you're like, oh no, why, like, it's fine, I'm just gonna skip it. Then reminding yourself of the why will make you be like, okay, no, actually, I'm gonna show up, even if it's like a short post. It's still better than nothing, and that's also fine. And consistency doesn't mean every day. I think a lot of people confuse that with showing up all the time. Consistency is whatever it means to you. Like, you can be consistent by showing up once a week, but you show up every single week, and that's fine. It can mean every day, it can mean other things.
Yeah, of course, it looks different for everybody, right? Like this week, for example, I'm really tired and I haven't posted anything on LinkedIn because I've had other things going on that have been my priority. But I've been posting consistently on LinkedIn for the past year, so it's like, okay, I'm not, even if I just miss like 3 days, okay, no big deal, because I know that as soon as I come back, like, that consistency is going to carry on, because I've already built it as a habit for myself. I enjoy it, and I can see the growth trajectory of that, and it's making me excited by where it could potentially go. And just not doing it for a couple of days doesn't mean I'm not consistent. It just means that I'm busy. I've got other priorities this week, and I will come back to that, and then I will continue the consistency. And I think, yeah, people get really scared, I guess, around the word consistent, because they think, oh my god, I have to show up and post every single day and do da 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 da. Again, sometimes that's a narrative that we hear online, and I think that narrative can be really damaging, because it actually usually stops people from being consistent, because they burn out before they get to the point where they're seeing that consistency that they could have just from a couple of posts in a way that feels really good for them to post in. They burn out before they even get the opportunity to see where it could potentially go. So yeah, I think it's a very nuanced conversation, the one around consistency. Like, there's a lot of different opinions around what that looks like, but realistically, as long as you are choosing platforms that can help you stay to show up in a way, a cadence that fits you and in your own energy, I think that's the most beneficial way that you can do it. And would you say for yourself, like, you've used your voice and your public speaking as a marketing channel for your business, or has that been like a different agenda for you?
It's been a different agenda, because initially it started with, all the sustainability awareness that I was raising in Singapore, and then in Bali, and, all the things that I have organized as well. And then with time, like, topics, recurring topics came. So I developed a few keynotes, and it was very climate focused. So I think my identity got really much attached to, all the sustainability training that I was doing in corporate and all of this. And then I started all this work with women, and, loving it so much. And I started, like, developing workshops for them. And I developed a keynote this year on taking action and all this. And I think at the end of the day, I realized that my identity was not about sustainability. It's like, I am who I am. I love to push people into action. That's all that I do all day. And it brings me a lot of joy. And I think it's like bringing back the fun element into it, because eventually, like, those corporate training that I was doing, I got, like, a bit tired of them, like, same topics. I'm gonna repeat for the 100th time that, like, this is what they could do and all this. And I think it's really important to accept that we are evolving human beings, and that's okay. That, if there's something you were speaking about that brought you a lot of energy, back in the days, it doesn't necessarily fit your agenda as much today, then it's fine. Like, bring on new things and listen to, like, those topics that energize you as well. So yeah, I think my speaking journey, speaking it has always been part of what I do, you know, whether it's a corporate training, whether it's like being on stage, whether it's like this is speaking, like being on the podcast as well. And that has always been a medium where I'm genuinely happy. Like whenever there's a mic, even this kind of mic makes me happy. So I think it's also realizing that this is really what brings me so much energy, because um realize, like, I think an honest question people can ask themselves is like, what would you do, you know, on the weekend, you know, even without money being in the equation, that would still bring you a lot of energy, right? And this is something that I could do on weekends and pro bono, because initially I couldn't get paid for this because I was tied to my visa and my company, so I was not allowed to invoice. But I would still go and invite people to my house and present something to them. I would still go within corporates and deliver things to their employees. Even though I was not paid, I was genuinely so fulfilled by it. So yeah, I think when you can pinpoint that, then you know the journey is much more fun because then eventually you get paid for doing these things.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good way to look at it. It's like, how can I you're not necessarily doing it for the money, right? Like it's you're doing it because you're passionate about it, you're doing it because this is something you love. And I think this is a question that I have around particularly public speaking, because we know that public speaking and putting yourself in certain environments and rooms and showing up on stages can position you in a certain way to benefit your business. And I think that that's amazing, and that should be used. But I'm also starting to look at it from the other perspective and saying, well, is there also a part of it where, for example, myself, if I wanted to show up, is it just for me? Is it just for my benefit? Or am I also, because I just want to serve, I just want to like support, I want to show somebody something that I maybe know and they don't, like, and I'm thinking about it because I do also like speaking, and I've done a couple of speaking gigs, but the ones that I've done in the past, I've almost done it for myself, and like, one, to like prove myself that I can do it, two, because I wanted to have the name of wherever I was speaking on my credentials or whatever. But I'm interested on the other side of it. Like, what kind of like, when you see other people speak, like, how do you perceive that? Do you think it's mainly for their benefit, or are they also doing it for the audience's benefit?
I think it depends on everyone, but my mindset shifted actually before my TEDx, because I started getting really nervous about it, and I remember a dear friend of mine who has been on like a lot of stages, like hundreds of them. She said to me, you know, we tend to think that public speaking is about you because you're the one delivering the message, but at the end of the day, it's for that one person who will listen and be connected to what you have to share, and this will genuinely help them, you know, have an impact on them, whatever positive impact it has. And then it kind of shifted my perspective that it's so easy to like make it all about you and yourself and being like super good at it and being like, look at me, I'm like speaking on these stages and everything. But at the end of the day, like, what is it that you so like that you want people to get from you, you know? Because you know, speaking is one way of channeling that. It can be through writing, like you could write a book and still deliver the same kind of message to people. It can be through, like, right now, podcasting. It can be through I don't know, like different kind of mediums where um it's really going back to what is that message, you know, what do you want to share? Because if it's speaking just for the sake of speaking, like, what's the point? Like, who
Why
are
would you
you?
put yourself through that? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like going back to that one message or one kind of impact that you want to have on people. So for me, it's that red thread of pushing people into action. So through my words, if there's one person in the audience that can do something tomorrow based on what I had to share, and I usually, like, you know, really activate them. Like when I do speaking, even if it's a keynote, I try to activate as much as I can. And I mean, like my TEDx, it was a different kind of message, different kind of audience. And I'm like, you know, if there's one young person in this audience that got something from me and they want to go back to nature tomorrow, even though they live in the city, they're super connected. That's like for me a win. It's like, okay, mission accomplished. So yeah, I think it's like trying to shift your mindset into making it less about you and more about the audience. but you can still make it about yourself because you still want to improve, right? You want to make sure, because you can have a really cool message to share. Of course, if your delivery is not great, if you're like super nervous, if you like speak like this, and oh my god, like of course we won't understand. If you're, so it needs to make sure that it lands, and for this, then it needs to be a work on yourself as well, working on your voice, your posture, the way you use your hands, and so many other things, of course. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a bit of both.
Yeah, it can work both ways, right? I was just interested to. I've literally, it's just been something on my mind, so it's interesting to hear someone else's perspective on it, because I've been thinking a lot about it lately, and because I actually, similar like what you said at the beginning around, you had like a visual of yourself speaking on stages. I've had that visual previously before in like I did like a past life regression activation session or something, and that came up for me in that session, and I'm like, okay, interesting, because like I don't have a conscious goal to be a speaker, but I do enjoy speaking, and I don't think I'm terrible at speaking either. So I do enjoy kind of getting up and talking. So I'm like, in my head I'm like, but okay, is that, would that be for me, or would it be for like the purpose of someone else? So I'm like, I'm having that conversation with myself at the moment. So thank you for your perspective on that. I appreciate it. It's good to hear it from somebody else.
Of course, and you know how you can know if it's for you? It's I genuinely encourage people to um start with, start with the people that they know and create the occasion for yourself. Like one of the things I've done is rehearse with my friends for my TEDx. So I invited 5 people at a time at home. And even before the TEDx, 2020, I wanted to teach how, I think it was around like toxic chemicals and everything. So I invited women that I didn't know, literally. I mean, you can only do that in Singapore, I guess, like open
Yes,
your house
like,
to
and
strangers.
Thailand. Yeah.
But yeah, I had like women that I didn't know come to my house, and I prepared the real thing, like with my computer and like slides and everything. And eventually I basically created occasion for me to check if this was something for me, basically. You know what I mean? So if at the end of those 2 hours I felt, I don't know, not energized or feel a bit blah or not really great, then okay, I know it's not really for me, or that topic is not for me, or that kind of delivery is not for me. So I think it's kind of like going back to, if you're not really sure, then maybe even before creating something like that, just closing your eyes and visualizing yourself doing it, and just see what kind of sensations come in your body. I think that's such a powerful way also to validate or invalidate something as well. Because I genuinely believe that if it puts a smile on your face, then like that you have something to, that you should be taking action on, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And your body knows, right? Your body knows what's right and wrong for you.
Yeah.
So you can definitely trust your body signals if you're in tune with your body. I think that's really important to listen to. And I want to go slightly divert away from like the public speaking piece, because you also obviously help activate people into like moving before they're ready. And I'm very much all about that. Like I would say I'm the queen of pushing someone out their comfort zone kind of thing. I've loved doing that like all through my life, because I like to push myself out of my comfort zone. So I also know how to push other people out of it. And I really want to hear from your side, like, what does that look like in practice? Like, how are you helping people kind of take action before they're ready?
Good question. I usually, okay, I'm me, I'm myself. Like there's a framework that came out with time, but genuinely it started with me having conversations with women, having those women share with me, some of the goals they had or some of their vision. And I would just be like, okay, why not? Like, what can you do, to start making them happen? And then we would brainstorm together and everything. And eventually I created my own framework with mentorship that called Positive Push. And it has 3 steps, which is, one is to be clear on, who you want to become and your vision. I think that's really important, because then you're connected to why you're doing this. And then second is increasing your own self-belief. And last one is really take action on it, like taking a leap that is scary excited. That's very important point, because it needs to make you feel like a bit cringe, almost a bit like, oh my god, I'm really doing this. But the thought is also exciting. Like the thought of doing it is also exciting. And this is that's what I always say is like, fear is a good sign, but there's fear and fear as well. So yeah, that's how I do it. So can be like in a short conversation. Like just last week, we had a brunch with a bunch of ladies, and then we had a conversation with one, and she shared with me how she wanted to write more. And I'm like, okay, then why not? She said, oh, but I don't have the time. I'm like, well, time is what you make a priority of. She's like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, okay, how much time will you spend on Instagram this weekend? And she's like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 hours. I'm like, okay, how much time would you need for that article that you want to write? I need 30 minutes. Okay, well, you do the math. And she's like, oh my God, yes, I have no excuse. And then she was like, oh my God, you write better than my therapist. It was really funny. Guess what? After that conversation, 3 hours later, it was published.
Wow.
So sometimes people, like, I genuinely believe that they have everything they need. Like, they have the skills, the talents, the passion, the wants, the desire, anything, you can name it. But they need someone to call out on the excuses, usually.
100%.
Because below the excuses, you have fears, certain fears. And yeah, it's important to, like, I usually act as a mirror in a way. So of course, everyone's different. Everyone's at different levels of the journey. So that's why I made my mentorship evolved a bit, because sometimes, women come to me and they're not clear on their vision, like, at all. So I help them on that. Sometimes they're really clear, like they know exactly what they want, but they don't believe themselves. Like, really, they're like, they lost confidence. And so yeah, I really help them on that. And sometimes, yeah, it's really about the action part, like just activating them, believing in them. Like, that's what I believe. It's like you need to believe in the person before they believe in themselves. And that's what I had with my mom. Like, she believed in me before I believed in myself. And yeah, that was the push that I needed, because when you tell them, like, well, I believe you can do it, like, gently, you can see it in their eyes, how, like, their expression, their energy, things change because you believe in them. And yeah, and sometimes that's genuinely all they need.
Yeah, it's true. I think you need to either believe in yourself, or you need someone to push you to, like, tell you that they believe in you, because otherwise it's almost impossible to take the action. That is like the fundamental underlying thing that you need, I'd say, to be able to take action. And I hosted a business boot camp on Tuesday, I think it was. And in that session, I was asking people, like, because everybody there was like very beginner at business, I hadn't really taken any action. They probably had been sitting on their ideas for like 6 to 12 months. And I was like, why have none of you taken any action yet? And it was like, haven't got the time, procrastination, like not making it a priority. I'm like, I literally gave the exact same example that you did, of like, okay, well, how long are you spending on Instagram every week? Oh, 2 to 3 hours. Okay, cool. Well, take that 2 to 3 hours and put it into starting a business, and then you've got no excuse that you don't have any time. Like, time is literally just an excuse, and we will make up excuses just to stop us doing something, because we don't have the self-belief, or we haven't got someone telling us that we can do this. So I think, yeah, it's super, super important to have that person in your corner that's going to help force you to step outside your comfort zone, because growth definitely does not happen in the comfort zone. It happens outside, or in the journey towards the outside. And I think it's really important that we do take these leaps, because also that is what builds self-trust. That is what builds self-belief. Is like taking the action, doing something, seeing that it's safe, it's okay, and we don't need to have fear around it, and then we can continue taking the action as well, and that helps us stay outside of the comfort zone and keep going.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to, like, also there's action and action. Like, what I really encourage them to do is to think of, like, that first baby step that will allow them to, create momentum for themselves. And also sometimes, like, it's so easy to overcomplicate and over-engineer the thing in your mind. Like, I remember one of the workshops that I've done, like, recently for a group of women, there was this woman who wanted to do, she's a coach for parents, unconscious parenting, and she wanted to do a webinar for parents, teach them about whatever topic. And she's been sitting on the idea for 6 months. And this is just a webinar. Like, we're talking about something like a 1-hour session. Anyways, I asked her, okay, what would be your next step? And she's like, oh, I put one on Canva and design slides. And I'm like, no. What could be, like, simpler than that? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, I will help you. When would you like to do it?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God. I was like, yes, this is your first step. It's just think of one date.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, okay, I don't know. Let me check my calendar, bro. Okay, I could do this day. I still remember the date, actually. It was like, okay, I'm going to do that Wednesday in like 3 weeks' time. I'm like, okay, great. You have a date. Amazing. Yeah. You have a date and a time. That's your first step. What can be your second step? She's like, oh, I don't know. Well, go back to the slide. I'm like, no, the second play is having people join. So create a Luma link or Eventbrite or whatever you want to use, and put a description. and trust the process. The content is already in your mind. This is literally your work. Like, you already know what you want to tell to these people, but making sure that they come and they're aware of that event, that's down on you. And then, of course, the event happened, and then she made others, and then created momentum for herself to, like, she even did the physical one and all this. So she just needed to think, like, give herself permission to, put it down. Like, let's put it down in the agenda. That's your first step. So sometimes it's as simple as that. Yeah. And having accountability to someone, of course, because I really made her send me the link the next day. I was like, okay, I want to see the link in my WhatsApp.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's the accountability does help as well.
Yeah, accountability is big. And I think, yeah, like you say, people try and go from A to Z without going from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, they literally just want to fast track to the end thing or the thing that they should be doing, when actually that's usually not the process.
Exactly.
So you have to take baby steps, and then you'll eventually get to the Z, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and you have to take the action in order to get there. So I appreciate you sharing that story. And for anybody that is struggling right now to step outside of their comfort zone, to take action, someone that's like in business that knows that they've got more potential, or knows that they have something that they've been sitting on for a while, what would you suggest that they do?
Exactly that. Think of that mini tiny step. When I shared how I did these workshops at home, how did you think I had stranger come to my home? They had to come from somewhere, right? Well, they came from a Facebook post that I had done at that time in a Facebook group. I chose one group intentionally and I posted. And I thought to myself, well, at least I'm trying. I'm going to post about my intention. So I want those people who are sitting on something to just think of that first step that literally costs nothing, and you have everything to gain from that and nothing to lose. It's like, it's probably going to take you either a few minutes with yourself to think or whatever, but it needs to be really extremely easy that you can do in less than 24 hours. So yeah, I would encourage definitely from that, because you never know, from that place, like the kind of ripple you can create for yourself, it can be wide. Like, from that one post, I got women who gave me their interest. 46 of them commented on the post. From there, I messaged them on DMs. From there, I gave them dates, organized the workshops, did a few, built my confidence because I had to create slides and present, and I got feedback and everything. From there, I told people about what I was doing. From there, someone messaged me saying, can you do this for 60 employees? From there, I've done it for employees, and I was like, oh my God, I can do this in corporate. From there, that planted the seed. Like, you can see the ripple that came out of it. It's like wild, right? Where did it start? One tiny Facebook post in a group. That's it.
You just took like a baby step action, and then it's compounded and grown and swelled out of what you probably even imagined it could be. So that's amazing. And I think so many people can run with that really simple advice, honestly, like, because we overcomplicate everything. Humans overcomplicate absolutely everything, and really all we need to do is look at the one little tiny step in front of us, as we do every single day when we're walking in a straight line. And that is literally just the metaphor for everything else in life that we need to really simply live by, but we forget daily. And I think we consciously need to remind ourselves over and over and over again that it does not need to be as complicated as we make it. So thank you for that reminder, and thank you for sharing everything you've shared today. Usually with this podcast, it's all about freedom, and I want to close by asking you the question, what does freedom look like for you right now in this phase of life?
It's a bit similar, I think, joining my definition of success, which is being in alignment with yourself. So having the freedom to do the things that you want to be doing and take action on them, give yourself a shot, and always be in alignment with yourself. If something lights you up and being able to go for it, for me, that's freedom.
Amazing, beautiful. And if anyone wants to connect with you today, how is the best way for them to do that?
I'm very much of a LinkedIn girl, but becoming an Instagram girl now. I'm starting a Yak challenge. I literally started yesterday. So yeah, Instagram or LinkedIn, any will do.
Amazing, perfect. Thank you so much. It was great chatting to you, and thanks so much for sharing everything you shared.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophie. Bye.
What I love today about this conversation with Alya is that how simple she made being visible sound. You don't need a fully formed action plan, a polished slide deck, or permission from anyone else to start being seen. You just need to take one tiny, unglamorous first step and put a date in your calendar that you're actually going to commit to. If this episode nudged something in you to start taking action on the ideas that you've been sitting on and probably overcomplicating in your mind, take it as your sign to write down one tiny step today and put a date next to it so you actually start committing yourself to taking action. And if you want more of this, come and find me on LinkedIn. Everything I share there goes hand in hand with what we talked about here. And like I mentioned at the beginning, if you are struggling to take action in actually starting your online business, come and join me in the Freedom Business Bootcamp. The link is in the description. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you love this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe on your chosen podcasting platform, and I will see you in the next one.